My name is Brenda Gifford, though a lot of people call me Toe Cutter.
Toe cutter?
You cut off one person's toes and suddenly that's your thing. You know how it is. Anyway, it's my job to facilitate the fair distribution of wealth, and I can't help but notice this tanker full of precious gasoline you have.
Scraptown refined this themselves.
And that's great, but they can't just hoard this wealth. We want to get it to those who need it most.
You're just gonna take it for yourselves.
Well, obviously, my office will need to get the supplies first. The people doing the redistributing need gas, or we wouldn't be able to go out and redistribute. That's just common sense. But after we've had our fill, we'll give what's left to the most needy or those with the highest social credit score.
You people ruined this world!
No, that was the capitalists! As soon as we started redistributing wealth, they stopped making it. Just goes to show you, they never should have been trusted in the first place. So now we just need everyone left to cooperate as we make our way through this rough patch to a more equitable future.
I'm not handing this over.
Do you have a permit for that sawed-off shotgun?
Yes.
That was a trick question. We don't give out permits for weapons. It really helps with the redistributing when we're the only ones armed. Anyway, if you're triggered by violent situations, I'd recommend you stop this truck and get as far away from here as possible.
You see that woke bitch screaming, "Free Palestine"? That, my friend, is a Western sucker. She's the target audience for the greatest cinematic franchise ever produced. And I ain't talking about Marvel. I'm talking about the long con of the Levant, Free Palestine. It's a bogus idea, a phantom concept. And it wasn't born in a tent in 1948. It was born out of the absolute gold-plated, 24-karat arrogance of the white man. See, your average racist, white diplomat, Columbia professor, or student, he looks at an Arab and thinks, this man is too organic, too primitive. He's a child of the desert. He's got too much ancient honor to pull a fast one on a sophisticated guy like me. Western pricks are so racist, they don't think an Arab is sophisticated enough to lie to them. They think the lie is a Western invention, like the steam engine or the light bulb. They look at a guy in a kafia and they see an authentic soul. And Yasser Arafat, he saw the white man's racism. He said, okay, motherfucker, you want authentic? I'll give you authentic. He put on that uniform, he trimmed that stubble just right, and he sold them a story. He knew that if he played the victim, the white man's own ego would prevent him from ever checking for the ace up the sleeve. Arafat knew it. I know it, and now you know that too. And fuck's sakes, they turned that shit into a system. They franchised it. It's like the Fast and Furious movies. Each one is dumber than the last, but the suckers keep buying tickets. They saw the basic lie work, so they built a whole fucking industry out of it. The Intifadas, that's season 1 and 2. Hamas today, that's the gritty reboot. And who's the marks? It's the woke American bitches on TikTok who wouldn't last 10 minutes in a place without high-speed Wi-Fi and oat milk lattes. It's the European leaders who flooded their countries with people who hate their guts, and now they're so terrified of being called intolerant that they'd let Hamas record a podcast in their living rooms. You got these Hamas guys who throw a woke activist off a roof faster than you can say intersectionality, and they're using the Westerner's own guilt as a human shield. They're over there in Gaza laughing their asses off while some girl in Brooklyn with a nose ring explains why they're actually decolonial freedom fighters. But the suffering, it's real, you say. Of course it's real. A con doesn't work without a little blood on the floor to make it look visceral. But the narrative, the strategy, it's a masterpiece of exploiting the Western sucker's need to feel morally superior while being intellectually lazy. They lie to your face. They know you know they're lying, and they know you're too goddamn scared of your own shadow to call them on it. Because if you say, hey, wait a minute, this is a hustle, then you're the big bad racist. They got the Western world in a headlock using nothing but the Western world's own vanity. It's hilarious. It's beautiful. It's like watching a guy pay a thief to rob him because he wants to show how much he supports the underprivileged. Now get out of here.
Okay, guys, welcome to the program. What did we learn? Election issues, fractures. What did we learn with the president's speech last night? I'm going to kind of blow through this fairly fast because there's a lot I want to share. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. It's a simple proposition. It's why I partner with them. I'm asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com, request your free gold and silver kit today because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Everything is going digital. It's written into multiple bills they're trying to get through. And you can bet going through with the SAVE Act, it's going to be a rider there. It's going to happen. Folks, it's happening. Know what your rights are. Know why you need to have physical gold and silver. Go to jovanlovesgold.com. Check it out. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this in reverse. You know, the president spoke last night. I'm just asking you, what did you learn? Put it in chat first. We're going to do a little exercise. Put it in chat first, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrapolate the key points for you. And then I'll put on the whole speech where you can listen to it with the ears and the definitions you should have. Share this program. We'll get started right after this. Okay, all I'm doing is unpacking what President Trump said last night. And it's amazing that this is why I've always explained to you words matter. This is why so many people heard different things. I asked you, what'd you hear? Somebody says, I heard a lot about machines and other country involved. I also heard the word could a lot. Okay, that's one. Somebody said, China has the voter rolls and he believes the Venezuela bullshit. Okay. Another one says China machines, voter rolls, data breach, no mention of papers. Interesting what you hear. This is why I prefer people to slow down and understand exactly what you're being told from the government, who plays within carefully measured guidelines of rules and roles. Let's talk about a few things. Two of the key findings that were brought out, okay? Two of the key findings that were brought out. They were able to verify 278,000 non-citizens identified on the voter rolls. The DHS did this review. And they were also able to reveal to you that China acquired 220 million US voter files. Pop quiz. We've been doing this, 6 years plus? Where were you already told all of that information? Where were you told we have illegals on our voter rolls in massive numbers? And where were you told that, hey, look, all kinds of states leading up to the 2020 election had their voter rolls stolen? Right here. Now, this is key. You learned it here. The world heard that as a big, oh my God, the president said it. You already knew every state. You already knew that the rolls were taken. Let's just take Arizona, the guy that got not only caught with the rolls and the data cards prior to the election, but all of a sudden he just totally disappears. The FBI drops it. Now you're kind of understanding the inside FBI hook. The material points you should understand when they're talking about two findings are things that you knew. You've known for years. We've broken every one of these down. You can go back and watch it. You can go back through it. Okay? Now, why does this matter? Where do you use a non-citizen? You use them where? On the voter rolls. How is it that then triggered? What does the voter rolls trigger? It triggers one incredibly important thing. What does it trigger? Right. It triggers the physical ballot. It's the only thing that triggers the physical ballot. Now let's go to the other side, that China extracted the voter rolls. What does that trigger? The ability to read, write, add to the voter rolls. Just like the illegals, if you're on the voter roll, you're going to get a what? Same thing for China. If they can find people that do not have the propensity to vote, they run all the math and the analytics, they have all the data. And you look at those numbers, you can statistically know who is probably not going to come in and vote and what names to watch for. See, if you're going to watch data, who told you that in order to steal an election, you got to be able to watch the data in real time? That way, you know which files you can use and how to use it. That's what we disclosed to you years ago in Countdown to Chaos. You've got to understand who's coming into the system, who's been into the system, how many votes have happened, and then where are you most likely to find something you can add that you can use that's going to be hard to track. Well, that's Countdown to Chaos. All of these have to do with it, right? And then you take low propensity voters. We showed you videos. Bobby Python and myself showed you people interviewed that knew they did not vote. And all of a sudden it says they voted, and a lot of it started in 2018. That was as they started testing it. Pop quiz. Who sold the entire GOP registered voter database? I didn't say stole. I said sold. I told you this too. Who sold the entire GOP database. I didn't say stole. I said sold. Not the government. Not Kreb. Kreb doesn't have it. Narrow down and think. Get your thinking. Because I told you this. I just want to see if you remember who actually sold the entire GOP. There you go. Emu chick. I love you. Ronna McDaniel. Do you remember me telling you that? You have to have three things. You've got to be able to know all of the votes as they come in. That was Countdown to Chaos. You literally have to be able to watch that, but you have to have something to measure against. So you got to know who can come in, who's allowed to come in, who legally has a basis to come in, and did they come in or not? And then you use them at the last minute. And then there's one other thing you need. What do you need? You need time. And that's the time hack. You know every bit of this as to what was discussed last night. So when you look at these two items, non-citizen illegal voters, that is exactly what I disclosed in Arizona when I was doing the debrief. Carrie Lake, everybody there, and the fucking media went nuts and said it was a lie, it was a joke, it was stupid, it was whatever. And I told you they were packing them on. I even told you how they did it through DMV. Here it is. Now the federal government confirms it. You know why we don't have more than this? Because this is only a few states that actually complied and hand over their rolls. 22 states have not complied. Wait till you see those. Okay. You heard the president mention electronic voting systems or electronic voting systems. Pop quiz. Do you remember there's a definition, what are our electronic voting systems? What are they? What are our electronic voting systems? What are they? Not what, well, as you would define them now. A lot of people will tell you different things, and the definition has been corrupted. And by the way, people God bless you. And you're right. We wanted this pop motherfucker. You're gone. Thank you. It all goes to election integrity. So what are our electronic voting systems? Let me walk this back. Do you remember when Tulsi came out and said, our electronic voting systems are compromised? And everybody goes, see, I told you it was Antifa and a call and Dominion and whatever. And I said, do you know that she said electronic voting systems? She didn't say electronic voting machines. There is a difference in what it is. So what is our electronic voting systems? Mark this down. Here is what our electronic voting systems are. This is everything that's included inside what we call electronic voting systems. You've got the direct recording DRE machines. That's where it marks your ballot for you. Then that's where you touch it on the touchscreen. That does your vote. Then you've got the ballot marking devices. That's what actually can fill in the oval for you because they say you can't fill in an oval. Then you have the optical scan and the tabulation systems. Those are two different things. Okay. And I think this is funny. I think this is so incredibly funny. We'll talk about it. Let's see. I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay. Hang on. Wait. And this is why we go through this. Somebody came in and said, Cantina Nola, Sidney Powell, Mike Lindell have had lots of evidence for years. This is why I do this drill, because I want you to understand the definitions and I want you to hear the words. I don't want you to hear electronic. See, my whole point of this one thing, electronic voting systems, most people hear voting machines. It's not what we have. So when you have optical scan and tabulation systems, here's what it is. Tabulation is the secondary count. When you go into a precinct, you mark your ballot, which you have the legal right to cast your vote, and you put it into the scanner. They put it in the scanner to you. Did you vote? No. What you did was you cast a ballot. It doesn't count as a vote in any form or fashion until it runs through the tabulation system. And we have different variations. We have precinct count scanners. That's the one at the voting precinct. And then we have central count scanners. One where a human walked in, one where it got mailed in bulk. Those are two different things. The next part of our electronic voting system are the poll books, which is when you saw me in front of the Senate in Georgia and said we're in, that's where we were, inside the system of the poll books, left open the door, 6,969 of them, 6,932 of them, all networked together. And you could see everything. Not a hack if they leave the door open. So electronic poll books. Then you have the election management systems. That is where, after the tabulation stuff, it drops. Right? It drops. That's the management systems. Then you have voter registration databases. Then you have the system that has to deliver the electronic ballot deliveries for all the absentee voters or mail-in. That is a different system, electronically managed. And then you have what's called the election night reporting systems. Do you understand, if you go up to the DREs, the ballot marking devices, the optical scanner tabulation system, those are all third-party pieces of hardware. Everything in this is primarily software. I'm giving you these definitions. I hope you write them down, because as we go back through what the president told you, you may finally begin to understand what it's at. And that's why I'm looking at election issue and fractures. What did we learn? You were told everything. Now, here's the next little bit of definition understanding you need. And somebody says, Sidney Powell, Mike Lindell have lots of evidence. Let me ask you a question. Pop quiz. Did the president say Venezuela influenced or changed votes, or votes were changed, or Venezuela hacked the United States election? Put it in chat. Did the president of the United States say that? Now, he didn't even say it's possible when it comes to Venezuela. He didn't even say it's possible. What he said was, we have an account, a whistleblower said this was done in Venezuela. They changed and corrupted everything. Those are very specific words. What many people heard, and what a lot of podcasts say, I told you it was Dominion and Antifa and Baylor. The president told you Venezuela has thoroughly corrupted their elections. He even told you how they did it. Software. Now, what's the difference between Venezuela and the United States of America? Venezuela, you're not going to get an audit. The United States of America, you're going to get an audit. You have laws. Venezuela, run by a dictator and the military, basically. You're not going to get an audit. So why can they do something like this in Venezuela? Why can they do something like this in Venezuela? Because of the unique circumstances of Venezuela, which news freaking flash is not the United States of America, and in their environment and in the way they're controlled and what they do to their people, yes, it's done, has been done, is done very often, and people get paid big to do it and play along. But did they do that in the United States of America? See, we have a little bit different thing is we're going to get audits. We're going to get a lot more information, and we got a lot better laws. And we're not military controlled. Do you understand the difference? So somebody says, well, Sydney has the information. Well, Sydney talked about, right? They talked about things for Smartmatic or whatever. Can I tell you something that most people never know and I've never talked about? Do you know the guy that gave Sydney the Smartmatic information and say, here's how some of this stuff cross ties, here's what's going on, here's who invested who? That was me. Way back when. To understand the connective tissues. Nothing to do with what happened to us in the United States of America. You just got to understand what you're dealing with. But people are going to tell you, see, I told you it was the voting machines, it was Smartmatic, it was Dominion. No, that is not what was said. And we can go back and we can audit it together, okay? So hang on. So there's a big difference between what you think is going on and me. Mike Lindell had what evidence? What evidence did Mike Lindell have? Just name one piece of evidence Mike Lindell had. Because the only thing he ever said he had evidence of were the PCAPs. They were never delivered. They were he testified under oath in a trial. He never, ever had them. So what evidence did Mike Lindell have? Now, the reason I even put that on the screen is that's why media plays such an important role in all of this. Because, see, it doesn't matter what you're told in most cases. It matters how much you've been influenced and what your brain actually hears. So again, here, take a look at the screen, screenshot if you want. This is our electronic voting systems, plural, okay? Period. Take a quick screenshot, it's going away. Now again, all I'm doing is teaching you as the thumbs down come in. He said, Michael, oh my God, I know he did because he has a cross on the outside of his shirt. Fucking grow up. We are talking about the fate of our country. Now, did you hear a lot about foreign interference in our election? Did you hear that? Did that word register with you? Did you hear a lot about foreign countries? You heard a lot about foreign countries. You heard a lot about influence in our election. Did you hear that? Everybody's unanimously saying yes. Do you know that foreign interference has an agency and government definition? Did you know that? A lot of people heard, yeah, I saw it. They sent it to China. They sent it to Venezuela. I'm going to hate Israel, so I'm going to add Israel in there, even though it never was. Foreign interference. Your brain, because of what the media has told you, is foreign actors got into our elections and they changed the votes. They took away votes, they added votes, etc. Be honest if you thought that was the definition, right? I saw it on the internet. You saw a map on the internet. You saw it going. Who showed you the website where that was manufactured? Who showed you how you put in, this is where I want it to be, and this is where I want it to go, and then it will create that little map for you? Long ago, all on a website. Interesting, now owned by Mike Lindell. But you think that's a PCAP. No, it's a visualizer where you put in what you want the PCAPs to look like. Now, there is a definition at the government level. I want you to read this. I'm going to let you read it in silent for a moment, and then I'm going to read it to you because you heard the president. You're going to see it again in a few minutes. I'm only doing these definitions so you understand what President Trump actually said. Foreign election interference. U.S. Code 2708K 4 and the related laws. Covert, fraudulent, deceptive, or unlawful acts by a foreign person, government, or agent intended to specifically influence voters, undermine confidence in elections, or alter results. This includes actions violating campaign finance, voting rights, and criminal laws. Read it again. This is the United States definition of foreign election interference. Did that go on? Did that go on? Get my screen straight here. Stand by. Okay. Ready? Here's some of the definition of China. Here's China's direct foreign interference in our election. You're now finding out they funded BLM. They funded the riots. They basically created the mythology, which they flamed, paid people to flame, paid news outlets to cover, to flame that white people hate black people, paying for demonstrations and marches that it leads to believe they're the evidence that there is racial divide. They paid to stir the conflict between police and anti-racism, right? They paid to basically say that police only arrest bad people, right? They amplified party disagreements. They basically amplified Congress and Trump conflicts. They amplified women's rights. They amplified South Sea China policies, war preparations, and propaganda. So did China engage in foreign election interference? You bet your ass. But the cards made in Taiwan, and they manufacture the electronics, and I saw the cyber symposium, and a bunch of those arrows went to China and came back that they were intercepting votes and changing them, and I know it's true because that guy wears a cross and invokes Jesus' name, so I know it's true. There's the China interference. That's one part of it. That's only one part of it. That's only one part of it. So yes, was there China influence? You bet your ass. How much did I teach you on psychological warfare? Who's the one that broke the story that told you they have a war center in Beijing, and it's got 100,000+ foot soldiers in it that do nothing but stir hate online and create these conflicts back and forth? Who broke that story to you years ago and said, here, this is the combat structure. Here's what they do. Are you paying attention? That is legally 100% the definition of foreign election interference. When you're hearing, oh, it was the cyber symposium and they changed votes and I saw it on TV, the president just said China did it. No, he didn't. But other people told you that. Do you understand the role in amplified media versus actual, enforceable, prosecutable evidence? There are rules here. This can say anything, but in your mind, let me show you what happens. When in government, unfortunately, we have to follow by rules, especially if you're doing it right. But somebody over here, it's China, and donate. You think the government's not doing anything. No, the government has to do it a certain way, and it has to be in the categories as defined with prosecutable evidence. So you think nothing's happening behind the scenes. You think nothing's happening there. But this is sucker, donate. Get it? It's all a con. It's all a con. It's all 100% a con. Just like you get conned into, you can't do anything about the voter rolls, so sweeping the dirt floor. But they won't tell you, but I will tell you. So I want you to understand what foreign interference is in elections. Now, there are also other things about foreign interference in our elections. Here it is. Ready? When you cyber attack or you hack breaching voter databases, election management systems, or vote tabulation equipment. Pop quiz. If they got a hold of the voter rolls, which ironically, a big bulk of it they bought, because all they're doing is perfecting all the data, because it's all a data game, folks. It's totally data, washing it, getting it clean, make sure you were dealing with. Does hacking a tabulation system, pop quiz, does hacking a tabulation system mean you changed votes? Put it in chat. I'm a hacker. I'm going to go hack the election, and I'm a hacker, the tabulation machine. Yes. A hack. Do I change votes? You know the answer to this? Fuck no. That's not how it works. What I saw, they take away votes for making look take of Joe Biden, and I take away from Trump, I give to Biden. I saw it on TV. You also read on the internet, I'm a French model and hung like a toddler. Only one of them's true. Anyway, you got told what the hack was in a very deceptive bullshit manner. When you understand what foreign interference is, you should have learned it from Countdown to Chaos. You understand things like in Arizona, 30,000 incursions into the election management systems. No IDs, no idea who it is. Are they swapping votes? I swappy vote. You're a smart guy, Joe. I know. I swappy vote. Or are they doing what? Understanding how many have been run through the system yet, how many have come in, what all is there, and what kind of window do they need to do what they're going to do. Which statistically is it? Oh, I change votes. We so dumb. I'm going to change it. You can see it, and they're going to catch it, but they're never going to look. So I change votes. It's an information gathering system. You can't steal an election if you don't know where, what, and everything that is going on at every minute. If you don't know where that election in 175,000 precincts, over 3,000 counties, if you do not know what's going on, let me tell you, you're going to fuck up. That's how you're going to fuck up. Because, see, even though, praise Jesus, they just changed the vote, that's not how it happens. It cannot be done that way. You can't decide, well, we're just going to make our guy win. We did a statistical 6-degree polynomial. We went back to the 2010 census. I looked at 4 counties in Michigan, and yes, the wind's blowing that way. We need to add 70,185,000 votes. And you go, you know why you don't do that? Because what if you're 10 million off? Either way, you're fucked. But yet, in the rudimentary ignifying, maybe that is a word, it's not, I'm going to coin it, ignifying of the American population, you think it's just change the vote. That's how you get caught. That's not how you get away with it. That's how you get caught. Because invariably, when you're dealing with 175,000 precincts, one precinct can only have 2,000 people, and somebody put in 4,000. Fucking A, you're caught. So, is that a process of changing votes? They could. They have a 6-degree polynomial chance of possibly. But what are they really doing? Well, now take away changing votes just for a minute. Just take away where you think it's changing votes. Let's just set that over here. Now let's look at it a different way. Foreign interference, proven. And now you accept the principle. You got to know how many votes are already in. You got to measure it against a database of your inventory. It's called a fungible asset. Who taught you that? Who taught you it all works on fungibility? Not Funyuns, although those are good. I haven't had any in about 30 years, but fungibility. And then what do you need? Time. Now, if you've got a database of everybody who can legally, and they stole that, and if you've got eyes on the system, we told you that, and you need time, right, to do it, there's going to be an evidence trail left over. Put yourself in the criminal fucking seat this time. You have stolen the database. You're now looking at every piece of data. You get this every day. You understand why you fucking look at a pair of boots one day on a site, and then you're on your phone and fucking the same boots come up in the ad. Everything's tracked. So you understand already how this works and how fast it can happen. So if you can steal the database and you know who's likely not to come in, do you steal a database and you go, John's in, Paul's in, Frank's in? No. You look at the database, you narrow it down real quick to the people who are most likely not to vote. And then you got your backup of inserted to vote. Got it? So you got your most likely not going to vote, so they're not going to come fucking looking for the ballot. And you got all the shit we need. Now it's a waiting game. What are you doing? You're watching. As you watch, the timeline shrinks. It should, but what'd they do? Extend the timeline. Hack. What'd they do? We can't count all the million ballots because there's too many. We're going to count for hack. President Trump tells you about this hack. He references Los Angeles. You're going to see it in a minute. Now, if you got a database, and if you now know how much it is, right? How much it is, you're going to need. And in fact, you're going to run an illegal operation of flooding in ballots and votes. There's going to be a digital signature left over. What is the digital signature? Do you know? What is the digital signature? You know it. I've told you. You know exactly. May I ask you, what is the digital signature that was left over in Maricopa County, Arizona? Hardcore evidence digital signature. What was it? 30,000 anomalous incursions into the database. What were they doing? Who's in? How many are come in? How many do you need? Where is this going? And it's perfecting its numbers. And then when it gets right to that end, now they know, well, Polly Wally didn't come in, so we can use Polly Wally because we know in the database he's a registered voter. Boom, what happens? They manufacture a ballot for Polly Wally. How do they cover it? Well, as they're doing these numbers, watching it, they've got the fake voters, they got the low propensity voters. They have all these extra ballots. You have evidence of it everywhere. In little bitty groups around town, they vote the ballot, put it in the secure envelope. How does it get back into the system? Yeah, those 2,000 fucking mules. What the fuck did you think they were delivering? Because even mules can't go over the precinct. So a mule is following not delivery orders, They're basically getting the ones they need, 11111 at a time, which all our forensics showed you. And then that's why they'll drop some here, and then they'll go next drop some here. That's how they wash it in the laundry so you can't see it. We saw it, but you can't see it. The signatures everywhere of anonymous incursions are not and never have fucking been changing votes. That's what the system wanted to sell you. The system wanted you to sell you that. So it's saw changed votes on TV area. Yeah, changed votes on there. Saw it on TV. Do you think they're that fucking stupid if they're trying to steal a country? Are you a fucking idiot? No. They gave you something to go, oh, look, I caught it. And while you're over here fucking on that stuff, which doesn't matter, they're laughing all the way to the bank because you can't prove that's how it was done, because there is no evidence of that. You can't see it. You can't find it because that's not how they did it. And it's on the voting equipment, which is voluntary rules. And they fucking bait it and switches you the whole time. Now, do you understand why their signatures left over 30,000 anonymous incursions into the system? This is what happened. Oh, by the way, did they do disinformation campaigns? Other than it's the machines and don't do the voting rolls, it's sweeping a dirt floor. We won't talk about the conservative disinformation. We'll talk about Chinese disinformation. Yes, Trump beat on little girl. He rapey. He bad bankruptcy, rapey. Chinese disinformation amplified. You think everybody in fucking New York City was talking about it? No. Fucking little 50,000 little Chinamen in Beijing are doing it. And dumbass people who want to hate and want to, I'm cool, amplify this shit. And then people are getting pissed. We gotta fix this. And then you get told what? Disinformation campaign. It cuts two ways. Don't worry. I know the election went bad. I know you think President Trump's not president, but I'm going to let you, just you, in on the super secret information. Now, don't tell everybody, but we're yelling it on the internet. Biden, he's in a fucking studio in Los Angeles. That's a fake White House. They know it. President Trump is really president. Don't you worry. We got all this shit under control. 17, peace out. Now, do you understand disinformation? I fucking laugh at this with President Trump. Fucking laugh out loud about people buying that he was fucking still sitting in the White House controlling the military and everything. You know who else? 100,000 Chinese guys laughing their ass off at you fucking redneck. Q, it worked. Q, Q. It worked. You think it was all done and you'll fucking sit on your ass and bitch and become great influencer podcaster. And you don't even know we're feeding it to you. That's election interference. Don't do anything. We caught it all. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't find out I'm a Chinese. I can't do it. I get my cross on. Don't worry. We have it all. We have every bit of it. Donate. Promo code MyCross. That's disinformation. Fake news. Fake reports. Oh, look. I saw a van. There were pizza boxes in it. Now, we know pizza is code for kids, but this time they changed the code pizza, P, paper. There is a P and paper. There are two of them. That double confirms that what was in that boxes was not pizza, was paper. It was ballots. All election influence. All they got to do is plant the story and somebody runs with it. So these things really did happen, folks. Just not like you're thinking. They 100% happened. It's just not what you think in the form it is. If you're going to hijack a $400+ trillion operation, which is the United States of America, you are going to apply misdirection And boy, your trails are going to be fucking invisible. The system told you. The system told you, here's what it is. See it. Switched it on TV. Let my people go. Gobble this shit up. So they think they know what I, Moses, intended. See the TV? They changed the votes. But the courts, they're all crooked. We had all that evidence. Fucking no, it never made it to court because it never was evidence. And then that side of the equation gets another fucking kicker out of it. They won't let us present our evidence. See, they're crooked and they're judges and they won't let us present our evidence. Never was evidence. And see, they get it coming and going. That's the system that will railroad somebody to prison and then play like they're the ones going to rescue her out of prison and go this way. They got a double kicker out of that. I saw it change on TV and I let my people go. Saw some guy trying to convince me he could part the fucking waters in the ocean. But see, it's the judges. It didn't get presented because it wasn't evidence. But see, we get everything in hyperbite pieces. What it actually is, what you got to recognize what it is foreign and domestic interference. Let me keep on going on foreign interference. Data theft or breach. Stealing voter files or personal data targeting for manipulation. Remember, I'm giving you the definition of what is foreign interference. China did it. We know it. Influence operations. He named them. Russia, China. That's an influence operation. By the way, it's foreign interference. All of these things have definitions. What happened is you get told in your head, no, this is what the definition means, and you buy it. When in fact, the whole system's laid out there, which is exactly what President Trump laid out. How about this? This is domestic interference. Okay, hey, wait, pause. If China has all the voter database, voter rolls, like President Trump told you, and they hacked, like we've been telling you for years, we told you the states, we told you the numbers, nobody covered. Just like sweeping a dirt floor. It's the machines. I saw it on If You Let My People Go. I got to put the cross up here to make it more believable. I got two cross. I got a big cross. Believe me. You knew all this. Now, if you have the data and you got 100,000 digital fucking warriors taking all this data and running it, you know what they're reporting to their superior? Here's the most likely people we can use. But we're going to have to reactivate them somehow, reactivate these numbers, which was the biggest thing you saw in all the vote, all these reactivation numbers. Shit, some of these places, we got to distribute this. They're going to fucking require ID. What the fuck do we do? This is China. They manufacture driver's license in bulk, get them to all the organizations on the ground in the United States, pass these things around. You have that evidence too. Proven in all these documents. This is what's called foreign interference. When President Trump told you, Russia, China, whatever, what came to your fucking mind? Oh, it was the PCAPs. It was, well, fucking A, man. When Mike Lindell, under oath, the single worst thing to ever happen to elections in the United States, admitted under oath, the one thing you conveniently forget, he never ever had them, but you put in your head, China, I know it, I saw all the votes going back and forth. No, you didn't. Because they ran a data campaign to get those ballots in and understand who voted when. Do they have to set foot in the United States to do that? No. All of it supported by influence operations. In the United States, the domestic stuff is, ready? Voter suppression, intimidation, false information about voting places, right? Unlawful purges of the voter roll. This is domestic interference. Did we have purges of voter rolls? People walk in and found they already voted or couldn't vote it? Yes, we did. Did we have false information? It was the most secure election ever, as quoted by the president. False information, that's domestic interference. Oh, we moved all your polling places. That's domestic interference. Most of these places you don't even remember. I showed you like in Georgia, precinct by precinct, they moved the polling places. Why? Because somebody 65 or older primarily walks in. So that person gets in their car. They're not traveling and running around a bunch. They go to that place because they're not in line getting this shit predominantly. This place has been closed. Here's your replacement place 6 miles away. And the person goes, I don't know where that is. And they don't go. That's domestic interference. Fraudulent voting by allowing illegals to vote. Did it happen? That's domestic interference. Double balloting, double voting. Did it happen? It sure the fuck did. Tampering with ballots, printing them the wrong size. Say, oh, we put it out. We had the candidate wrong. We've got to mail out another one, but you can't get the original ones you sent out. That's all domestic interference. Misinformation by election workers, false claims, undermine trust. There's nothing wrong with our elections. Everything's perfect. Everything's flawless. That's domestic interference. Campaign finance violations? Yes, if you give it to the politician, but if you give it to the NGOs, oh, we're just help America vote ethically and morally true, patriotic, God-fearing AmericanVotes.com, donate now. That's domestic interference. But people walked away, and you're not getting the most important things. It's all about the voter rolls, and it's all about that paper that gets generated no matter what is. It's all about the paper that gets generated because of those rolls. But as soon as people heard China or Russia, all that millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that was spent to crap in your fucking cranium, we got it all, here it is. You did a leap, a psychosomatic leap in your brain. Oh, yeah, right. It was change votes on TV. And it was Dominion. That's what all of this is. Every bit of it. And the president told you directly. Now I want you, in understanding these definitions, now that you understand these definitions, foreign interference does not mean change a vote. It means they were there. They came in. And we know that. But see, in the United States of America, it comes down to that prosecutable evidence in court. The real con was to convince America, no, this is the evidence, when it never was. Because it really only generates from two things. You get them on the rolls, they're going to get that fucking priceless piece of paper. They is the voter, they is the fake voter, they is the bad voter, they is everybody who wants to rig the election. Get them on the rolls, you're going to get that piece of paper. I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure I got it right. Stand by. And I want you to now listen. I'm going to try to not interrupt. I will check immediately that you do have sound. I want you to listen to exactly what the President of the United States told you, because he did not tell you Venezuela hacked our elections. He actually told you everything within the letter of the law for being accurate.
The president.
Let me know you can hear sound.
So his feed just popped up. Let's listen live.
Before we begin, I'm proud to report that our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been before.
Sound okay?
Doing great. Less than 2 years ago, we inherited an economic and social disaster. After the worst inflation in 48 years, the wide open borders with millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, including criminals of all types, and 11,888 murderers, many of whom killed more than one person. We had transgender for everybody, men and women sports, crime ravaging our cities, and the whole world was laughing at us as a nation, but not anymore. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. America is respected like we have never been respected before. We have more money being invested in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. More Americans are working today than ever before. This week it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Just happened. It was just given out. The media reported it, and we accept it. The best in 6 years. The tax cuts in our great, big, beautiful bill are saving hardworking families thousands and thousands of dollars, like with the provisions, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, along with the interest deduction on a loan used to purchase a car, but only if that car is made in America, and a 100% expensing for our job-creating businesses. Our stock markets are at their highest point in many years, but we can actually say of all time. And your 401ks, pensions, and retirement accounts are setting records every single day, the highest in history. For years, we paid the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. Now we pay the lowest price under my most favored nation's policy, because I was able to get the rest of the world and the pharmaceutical companies to act responsibly. Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%. TrumpRx.gov, this will ultimately reduce the cost of health care. You have to go to TrumpRx.gov and take advantage of it. But the cost of health care is coming way down because of what we've done with prescription drugs. And with Trump accounts, every child in America now has access to a tax-free investment account to save for their future. Billions and billions of dollars are being invested, put in by companies and individuals to take care of our children so that at age 18, they will have potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account, and they'll get off to a great start in life. So for that, go to TrumpAccounts.gov and sign up your child or any child you'd like to sign up. Our previously wide open borders have been transformed into the most secure borders in the history of our country, with 0 illegal aliens being admitted to the United States in the past 14 months. That is 0. Nobody thought it was possible. We had the worst border in the history of our country, and now we have the best. Crime is plummeting nationwide, with the murder rate at its lowest level since 1900, or more than 125 years ago. We're making a record investment in our armed forces, and we have the strongest and most powerful military by far anywhere in the world. I built it during my first term, and unfortunately, we're forced to use it now. We won in Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed, because no country can be great without fair and honest elections. You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections. Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes and really exposes like levels never thought possible to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers.
Okay. I'll make these very brief. I want you to use your logic. If China or Russia or anybody can just go into an electronic voting machine and change the votes, why do they need to steal the voter rolls? I just want you to intellectually, honestly answer that question. If in fact it's as simple as just go in and change the votes. I saw it on TV. Mike Lindell told me, if it is that simple, why would China take all the risk of hacking 22 states to get the voter rolls? If it's as easy as just going in and changing votes, they don't need the voter rolls. So why do they need the voter rolls? Because it's about people, paper, and programs. And they need to know who came in, who didn't come in, and how can they put them in so it can trigger the single most important thing in the world, getting that ballot.
Political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China has signed a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling.
Why wouldn't, and you got to go back to even how I got involved. You only saw me in 2020 in Georgia. And when I talked about the folds are going to be obvious, this is how they're going to do it. They're going to flood mail-in ballots. That's why they don't have any folds. My job is to make it simple. But I was involved much earlier than that. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know exactly how they would pull the triggers. Everybody knew it was coming. The chatter was there. It was coming. It's coming. They're going to do something. They're going to pull some shenanigans. We are in a fucking world of shit. Nobody just knew what the mechanism was. Okay. So if there was enough intelligence on the ground and infiltration on the ground that something's coming, we can tell they're testing the systems. I'll give you an example. You never recognize it for what it was. Remember when we had a rash of planes that would drop 20,000 feet in the air just out of nowhere? Boom, they drop. Do you remember all that stuff? Do you know what that was? That was hacks inside the fly-by-wire systems to learn how to make planes drop from the sky. You don't have to fly them into a building if you can make them drop from the sky. That was all a hacking operation to try to find out, could they make planes drop out of the sky? And it was proven it could. And it got stopped. It's also why President Trump in Turkey didn't get on that gift plane. It's why it's such a big deal who within the administration and the people that fly on the plane told and released, we're not flying that plane, we're flying in this plane. Now do you get what really goes on here? And so what you have to understand in all of this is how all these pieces move together. Nobody knew what it would be or how it would be. We only had general indications. Therefore, the one person who could expedite everything and move mountains to look is President Trump. So the system had to hold, sir, they've got all our voter rolls. Now, and you got to understand this, I just want you to put it together now, maybe finally. Why'd they need the voter rolls? You don't need the voter rolls if you can just go in and fucking change the machine. Which is why they needed a pandemic. They needed your ass at home. They needed overprint ballots because now they've got all this data. They need a fuckload of ballots to execute on, and they need you distance away. Do you now get it? Because if it was as simple as just changing a fucking vote, they would have changed the fucking vote.
Covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data.
I got to put a pause here, and I'm sorry. I'm watching chatter where other podcasters are telling people to join the local militia. You got to join the militia. You got to get ready. Do you understand that's what the system wants? I told you one thing has to fall to perfect this. They got to get our fucking guns. So now everybody's using this. Trying to arrest, I got to get the militia. Let's hang them all. I got the rope. It's all a con to make some wackadoodle fuckadoodle do something stupid that cost all of us our Second Amendment right. That's those podcasters saying got to join the local militia should be fucking thrown in jail. You should not even be seen. That's the setup. They need you weak and reactive. You got to understand how you're being manipulated.
In 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, They did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country. A standard, very pat.
I told you, why did they say, President Trump's telling you, why did they say it was the most secure election ever? I taught you this. The legal hierarchy in the United States is, if they suspect it's a problem, CISA, by the way, created in 2017, isn't that a coincidence? CISA has the authority to say, we think something was wrong, sir. What does it do? Boom, triggers the Election Assistance Commission, triggers investigations. But CISA, newly created in 2017, has to declare it that it's something's wrong. But what happened in the first time in history? Not only did we get CISA when they were conning President Trump, but all of a sudden, even before the counting was done, CISA comes out and says, the most secure election ever. That was legal cover that allowed every AG, every Secretary of State not to investigate because CISA declared it was the safest. Do you get it yet? All the different factions for this?
That line that was divvied out to say the cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show.
Next point, maybe now you get it. If one company or two companies, by the way, there are only 4 companies that work in our elections. If it was simple as a piece of software and it's already there and we can just go in and change the votes anytime we want, why did China have to go to all these steps if it's as simple as, look, just change the vote? You ever thought it through? Because that's not how it's done, and it's a massive psychological, very expensive process. Because if it was as simple as just changing the votes, they'd just fucking change the votes and not go to all this effort.
CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent him.
Okay, another piece of connective tissue. So now we're at the beginning of 2018. This is when I told you we knew something was coming. What also happened at the same time? What also happened at the same time? All our big agencies started warning everybody. We think there's going to be a pandemic of some sort. We don't know, but we think there is. They started prepping us. What else did they start prepping? Oh, President Trump's not going to leave office. He's going to do an insurrection and never leave office. What else happened at the same exact time? This is Russ Ramsland. We looked at all the software and our votes are being sent to China and Russia and whatever, and they send them out there and they change them and then they send them back. Anybody who understands technology, that's 3 fucking points of evidence. It starts here. Here's what you have. It goes here. Here's what they got. It's changed here. It's got to go back here. Those are all touch points of proof that nobody ever showed, but everybody thought it was absolute. All of those things started exactly at the same time.
His re-election, isn't that nice? Also, in mid 2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election.
That's how I got tipped off. For full disclosure here. The midterms, why this big security meeting's being held is, and why I got invited. They knew something went wrong and it almost conquered Texas. They knew something was wrong. And we're talking, you don't realize within just a few hundred votes how Texas almost fell. They just hadn't perfected how to do it yet. They tested in places. That was the tip-off. Fucking something's coming. It's why everybody was looking.
Election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did.
Do you remember what that was? That's when they start seeding, he's crazy. Article 25, he's got to get rid of it. See, they already planned the insurrection shit. They already planned that con. They'd already run the con that saying Whitmer was kidnapped. This was all set up. They're all executing a plan. So they knew enough people would bite off that President Trump wasn't fit for office and he'd have to be forcefully removed. Article 25. Do you remember that shit? President Trump's sharing it with you.
Did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting. The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that.
Okay. Who showed you forensically that we had ballots in the system that were supposed to be mail-in ballots, which means they have color, which means they have machine inserted color, stochastic confirmation, stochastic pixels, and some of them had made it in the system that they're saying is in fact an official ballot. Our team. Did it have anything to do with bamboo fibers? Never. How did the system work to keep you away from it? They basically turned it into, well, I said there was going to be, I never said it. So they basically took a lie. They're looking for bamboo fibers. And they amplified it because they needed to discredit it. Why? They knew we were actually finding actual counterfeit ballots that did not come off the official Hewlett-Packard machines. This is where you don't understand the law. The mail-in ballot has a very specific structure and paper to it. But what you don't understand is the The printers weep. They dribble intentionally. It's how they measure ink levels. You ever wonder how the machine knows, I got this much red, I got this much blue, I got this much black, I got this much, right? It weeps. A very tiny micro drop, about the half size of a blood cell. That's what we were looking for, because we know exactly what those machines emit. So we knew it's going to be the paper. They're going to try to get them in system. How did they discredit it? Oh, they were searching for bamboo fibers. Yes, I was looking for paper that was really on bamboo. All a con to discredit the act of actually finding counterfeit ballots. What you don't know behind the scenes is these things were found all over in different places and in bulk and got stopped. Right? A lot of those things are never talked about because you'd fucking flip out. And it's not about were they trying to do it. That's not what it's about. That didn't put anybody in jail. They could say and did, well, those were just test ballots. No, it's about what gets into the system. Because once it fucking hits that scanner, they're going to say it's legit and you got to count every vote. They manufactured stories to discredit that counterfeit ballots were circulating around. They tapped people that were absolutely fucking loony wonk-offs and said, here, spread this story. You caught these ballots. Here's what's going on. All of that was information operations to make you discount something that was an absolute fact. There are counterfeit ballots in the system. So when you hear somebody that, I did it, and it was this, and it was this, and it was this, and it was this, and this flight, and this flight, it's all misinformation campaigns. Because it'll never stand up. That's their point. It'll never stand up, and they need people to discount it. Why? They need people to discount that there are counterfeit ballots. Oh, that's just a bullshit story. They were fucking bamboos. That's what that light was. No, it wasn't. Never was. Never was. Now, do you understand why he's also saying, and there's massive disinformation campaigns, both foreign and domestic? And now you understand the bamboo shit, all that other shit, all planted stories they paid for to get out there.
That during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election.
That's domestic
Another
interference.
Official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote,
Domestic
to keep
interference.
intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known.
And by the way, she now works for Microsoft.
And to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that were supposed to burn the bags. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community.
Okay, before we get into this part, now you understand why definitions matter. Now you'll understand why there are uniform patterns. What are the uniform patterns? Massive glut of ballots, all having a time delay on them. If you match it to the state, their voter rolls were compromised. They needed extra time to count the ballots, but when you look at all the data, all of them also had something in common. There's all these weird incursions into the system that don't have proper passwords. It's not that they were left without passwords. No, they don't do it like that. They just leave the password 1234, put it on the responsibility of other people to change, which they never change. Why? Everybody knows the common password to get in. It was a boo-boo. We just forgot to change the passwords. No, it was the back door. This is what we told you in Countdown to Chaos. We told you this. We gave you all the facts. We gave you all the names. We gave you all the people. We gave you everything that set this up. This is not about the 2020 election. This is everything that was set up before. The system has the excuse it was just a boo-boo. You have all of these what is that? The passwords and how they're maintained is the compromise. No, it's some super secret 6-degree polynomial factor program that got put in there. No, you fucking idiots. It's the fact the rules are voluntary and they intentionally leave the door open in this particular way and say, oh, we just didn't change the pattern. Well, I'm sorry, that was just a boo-boo. It's how it's orchestrated. That's how they're compromised. The doors are there if you know how to use the door.
Assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by...
I showed you earlier, what is our election infrastructure? Your brain that got fed a load of shit, yeah, they go in and change the votes. I saw it on TV. They are in and out of our voter registration files. Oh, I didn't pay attention to that because they told me it was just sweeping dirt floor. I don't need to do that. They told me it was this. That's what's reading and writing and going in and out. Some of these states have thousands of people that have access, entities that look like they're nonprofits and stuff. We just register people to vote. We got to have no, it's all a con game. That's why my discussion with President Trump and shutting it down is if you do this move, it forces everybody to reset. I'll go back and give you the example. This was a security issue I told you about. Imagine sitting in the little box that you see on the railway lines across the United States. They'll have 1 or 2 security people in them monitoring the track systems. Now imagine you look at that one building in access and it's got 150 people in there electronically. And you point this out to them. This is a true story, by the way. And they're not supposed to be there. So what you do is you dump the system. Immediately you dump all access unanimously to everybody. You purge it. Boom. Now nobody can access it. Now you're regenning. You give it to this guy. You give it to this guy. The only 2 people that should be there. You got 1 remote monitor. That's going to be the third person. but you don't tell that person. That person should go, hey, Jovan, what the fuck happened? Now I don't have access. Yes, we reset it. Here you go. And you sit back and watch. You're watching this guy to your left. You're one of them. You hadn't told anybody. You're going to the next leak who had to call to get back in. If you start seeing other pop up, you know that's their fucking leak. If it don't pops up and all of a sudden these people aren't there, that's how you know they weren't authorized to be there and they hacked over time. That's how it happens. That is what happened en masse in our systems. But yet you got the advice. I'm going to tell you what nobody's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you is you can't clean the voter rolls. It's like sweeping a dirt floor. Let me say it a different way. Don't fucking cut off the voter rolls. Don't shut them down. Don't force a reset. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Well, why is because we need it for the midterms. And by the way, if you shut it down, we would have not been able to take Kamala. Obama had 69 million in his first term. His second term was 65 million. Hillary against Trump, 65 million. Trump won. They had to overdo it, so they supersurged the system. We got the big FU thing in Biden. Okay? Kamala, election night, 68 million. She's now over 75 million. If the voter rolls would have been shut out and cleaned, they would have never been able to take her to 68 to 75 million. It's not about her. It's about the fact they added 7.5 million more people that were part of the 81 fraud that they now validated by having them vote in 2 more elections. So you can look at, well, no, you voted here and they voted here. They must be real. Do you understand the con yet? Well, I'm going to tell you, don't you turn off. I'm going to tell you because nobody else can tell you. You're sweeping a dirt floor. President Trump's always known where that floor was and what the dirt was, and that's what they're fighting.
Supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight,
Let me decode that. I already talked to you about how this happened. I already talked to you about foreign interference. You think it's changing a vote. How could you disrupt an election? Have all these people going in to vote because it's a big election, but make it look like they already voted. Or not have them on the voter roll. Somehow they disappeared. And the person comes in and goes, what the fuck do you mean I'm not registered to vote? Did you forget that provisional ballots, the 2 single largest growing category? Well, Jovan doesn't know what he's doing. He's just looking at data from other years, trying to pass it off at his own. Fuck no, we audited 16 years worth. The 2 growing categories? Sorry, you're not registered to vote. Now, do they fix that right then? No, they give you a provisional ballot. Because, see, your right's only to cast a vote, not to have it counted. Do they ever rectify that? You have no idea. Sorry, you're not registered to vote. And you're going, fucking I am. Now they just took you out of the loop. The other part is, sorry, we showed you already voted early. You get it. You still get a provisional. But what does it have to defer to? The one that came in earlier. Are you going to fucking vote by mail and then walk in and double vote? Fuck no. You're going in to vote to make sure your vote counts. But what do they have to accept? The one that came in first. Do you understand foreign interference and disrupting our election systems?
releasing all of those findings and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela.
Okay, now this is material. You got sold by the people that sold you pillows, crosses, Serbia, and whatever. They can change the votes and they're going to drop a big bunch of change. President Trump's telling you like it is. Okay, here it is. In fucking Venezuela. But you told everybody it's happening here. He also told you of a potential plot. As he's describing absolute facts in the United States. He didn't say they potentially took these. No. Now it's, we also were made aware of a potential plot. Now, what just happened in that bit of information? They now moved you from the United States. They now moved you back over to foreign, not to understand foreign interference, but to let you keep on believing it's changing the vote. It got pulled out and go right here. But the report's real, but it's still a whistleblower and it's still anonymous. What potentially could happen has nothing to do with what actually happened. And by the way, even if they voted with blades of grass and did it by drawing straws in Venezuela, it has not a fuck to do with the United States of America.
And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past. The fourth set of
now, but you were told, again, you were told, happened here, changed the vote, saw it on TV, happened here, happened here, happened here. No, it didn't. But they're using this over here to help you make the mental leap it was, along with the mental leap that Michael Lindell had it all, was the PCAPs. It never existed, ever. And it keeps you on the machines. It kept you away from the physical ballots and the voter rolls.
Documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards.
Where'd you find out there were gift cards being swapped for registration? Liz Harris, Arizona. We told you that. Now, let me ask you a question. If you just change the numbers on the machine, do you need to swap gift cards? If you just change the numbers on the machines here in the United States of America, why do you need to get so many voter registrations? You can just change the machines. Why do you need to have all of that ground game like in California? Why do you have to get all those homeless people to sign their name there? Because you got to understand the ammunition is the voter roll. The weapon is the ballot. Use your common fucking sense. If it's as easy as you just go in and you just change the votes, why all the mass insert of ballots? Why all the mass insert of mail-in ballots? Why all the bullshit phony registrations? Because that's how it's done.
To their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote.
Okay. In case you don't remember, we're in Arizona. We're doing this massive presentation, Carrie Lake Fincham and all these other people. And I tell you, here's how it works with motor voter, and we get all these illegals on the rolls. Here's one instance. We know there were 10,000 there. One instance. All the media went batshit crazy. While all of the good side told you full forensic audit was a fraud. He never did. It was a grift. He never did an audit. He never did this. He never did this. How do we have the information? Now what you're hearing President Trump say, based on the executive order, demanded all of the states turn over their voter rolls. A double handful did. That's it. In that double handful, which could now be checked against government records and public data, found 278,000 of what the system told you never existed. 22 plus states, it may be more now, 30 some odd states have refused to comply. Now, in a double handful, if you find 278,000 that were done this way, it's not supposed to happen, it's not there. What do you think's really there? Let me ask you a question. If you just change the vote on the machines, why do you need to do all that? Because it's always about the voter rolls. The voter roll triggers is the ammo, gets it into the weapon, which is the ballot. It's always been about the paper, the people, and the programs. But you're led to believe, nope, it's just swapping a vote. It's not. It never has been. That is not it. He's giving you the formula for how this happens. So you got to ask yourself, if it's as simple as just switching a machine, why did China go through this? Why did they spend the billions? Why did Russians go through it? Why did they steal the databases? Why did they do the influence campaign? Why did they insert counterfeit ballots? Why are they getting illegals in there? It's the machines. We got them all. It's the machines. I saw them change the vote on TV. That was the domestic interference that replaced the definitions of what was real in your mind.
In federal elections, since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries.
You inflate the voter rolls. Now it's ready. You need that voter to get a ballot. Now you got a reason for them to get the ballot. But you need information of when to use them or you'll fucking blow it. Where do you go to get that information of what's come in? Poll books, scanners, tally systems, EMS. As you're watching everything happen, then you know, okay, got the database, got this group of people ready. We got it ready. How many we're going to need? Then you start feeding them into the system and getting them in. Why do you have to go through that? Because you can't just go in and change a fucking vote.
have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th.
What does that mean? Now put it together. You saw them on the streets, signing up illegal, signing up all this crap. They filled it up. They had to watch the entire time. They knew they were getting their asses kicked by Spencer Pratt. Therefore, they had to manufacture, we got too many to count. And look how long it took to count. Because they've got to have the cover of the mail-in ballot and drop boxes and the time hack to get them in and change the results. Because if it was just changing the votes on the machines from Venezuela or fucking Serbia, they would have just done it.
Think of that, much more than 1 month. Took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause.
You may understand by now how all this worked together, maybe for the very first time. The reports are heavily redacted, but I'll give them to you. If you didn't get them all, just watch my locals. I'll be doing them. We're trying to understand how to do zip files. I'm going to possibly try to break some of them down. The reason you have to spend so much in media and putting people on the road speaking is because you've got to convince people of something different than what it is to control the narrative. It's all about narrative control. It's all about narrative control, folks. But I think even you understand that if it was as simple, and the president told you, we've been made aware of a possible, right, intent to, it doesn't matter in Venezuela. We're the fucking United States of America. But you see how they've divided everybody up into factions. But I think you now see, especially with what happened in California and Los Angeles, how it's really done. Now, I want you to think of all the people that got put on the roll to convince you it was some special mathematical algorithm in the machine that swear to you they were working for free. Who paid for them to go on 745 city tour? See, you never put these things together. People don't think about it. But you can now see it was all a concerted effort to make you think the machines actually do it. When you sit down and get non-emotional about it, if it was the machines, they'd just flip the fucking switch. They wouldn't bother with any of this shit. That's how it all got hijacked. It is all, the reality is, if you've compromised the voter rolls, you can put in the paper. And that's why the paper always fails the test. The paper always fails the test. The machines, it always gets cloak and dagger and, oh, I can't really tell, and it needs a mathematician to do it, and, well, it was a boo-boo. There are no excuses for the paper. But what you have to do is you have to get them on the voter roll. I'm going to stress this again, and then I'm going to give you my final comment. And you just look at the numbers, you understand these people. You know Barack Obama was a fucking rock star. Comes out of nowhere and also gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Barack Obama had 69 million votes when he came in as a rock star. His second time round, 65. Then Hillary got 65 against Trump. They couldn't have this. So we got the overinflation, pandemic, all this other shit of Biden. Then we get through it. President Trump goes in. But the key thing you really need to know, they want you to think that Biden was more popular than Obama 2 times or Hillary. Then they want you to believe that Kamala was as popular as any of those and that she is neck and neck with the popularity of Biden. But what was it? Here we are 2+ years after the election. They've already moved her over 75 million votes. How does that happen? Is it because they left the fucking election machines running? No, it's compromised systems. What they're doing with this little scrub, they got the 81 on the books. Nobody got to question it. They fucking kept you away from everybody. Nobody did anything. So in their mind, that 81 is valid. How do they make the 81 more valid? All of these midterms, all of these elections in between, they let that phony one, they're going to use it again. Why do they use it again? That's how they validate. Well, it was real. It was real to begin with. That's how they're validating the shit they got on. That's why our only option is to do exactly what President Trump did. Shut this shit down, give over your rolls, we got to look. And that's what they're holding against. You need to understand that. You need to understand that. I'll be right back with my closing comments.
The upcoming 2026 midterms could be a bloodbath for Republicans? How? Consider this. On Election Day 2008, Barack Obama received 69 million votes. In his second term, he racked up 65 million votes, and he was considered the Democrat rock star president. Then Hillary ran against Donald Trump. She received the same 65 million votes. But come 2020, Joe Biden supposedly received 81 million votes. Was he really more popular than Obama or Hillary? Of course not. But that is not the half of it. In the 2024 election, Kamala Harris received 68 million votes. But did you know that now it's almost 2 years after that election, and somehow Kamala Harris has been elevated to over 75 million votes? How does a candidate get 8 million more votes after the election? Is this an attempt to validate the fraudulent 81 million vote fantasy from 2020? You bet. One thing stands between chaos and correcting history, and that is the historic 2020 full forensic archive of Maricopa County, Arizona. The single most detailed full audit of a presidential election in American history, audited over 2 million ballots, generated over 20,895,000 individual proof files. This took 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. This evidence must be kept for any and all future court cases, Supreme Court cases, and preserved for all time, eventually at the Trump Presidential Library. That is why we need you. You, the people, made this history happen, and now you, the people, can have a hand in making sure this evidence is saved for future generations. Please donate. Please help us. Donate now to continue to preserve a chain of custody state of the only legal court-ready evidence of the 2020 election disaster, the 2.1 million physical ballots, the single largest forensic audit of a presidential election in American history. Please donate now and preserve history.
I think now you understand why all this time you've seen it, you know, it's right before your face. They kept you away from physical evidence because it's all non-enforceable, because it all works together. Quit thinking bad guys just flip a switch and change the button. They have to change everything. They got to change the messaging. They got to make sure they have to make sure every court case fails. They got to make sure they control podcasters. They got to make sure they have broadcasters. You have to understand how this game is played. This is what's going on. This is why even now, when you watch this crap that they're doing about Israel bad and whatever and all this other stuff, you're finally getting a look at how all this influence works. I've talked a lot of it, and it's why you're about to get a new book called Fraudcasters, so you can really understand how all this works. Never think the bad guys only do just one thing, but they've got to control the dialogue. They give you brand new definitions. If they can convince people that no, there's not a male and a female, there's these 72 flavors, think about what they can do at something like this. They just got to keep chaos in the mix. Here's the bottom line. President Trump knows what's up. He's known it for a long time. We had a very, very long, detailed, with facts discussions about this, how it works, here it is, or whatever. And even sitting in his damn office, and I am going through, sir, you got to get rid of the voter rolls. Here it is. Behind, over me, and you know this story, where we're told, don't bother with the voting rolls. I stopped the office. President Trump here, Devin Nunes, I turn around, Susan Wiles, and she goes, well, that's what we're told. We're told not to bother with them. That was kind of like a pivotal moment. And then, sitting there, now I got to get the attorney involved, which is Christina Bobb. On the phone, we're going through this at the president's direction. And Christina Bobb goes, well, I was told you never did an audit. You didn't do an audit. Where the fuck did that come from? All the bullshit fraudsters to keep it from. Now, of course, you've seen cleaning house happen since then. Folks, this is not minor. This is a war. But see, you're the enforcement agent. I fucking choke when I think about the fact Mike Lindell getting out in there and telling everybody in the world, it's the machines. We got it all the counties. We got the machines. We got this whole bit. We're going to show it. Only thing that came from that was Tina going to prison. They never showed the PCAPs. And then in court, you find out they never had them, but he needs a defense funding to raise $18.3 million from you. This is how information warfare works, and this is what's up. They're going to give you the bad guys. They're going to decide who are the good guys, and they're always going to keep you away from the truth. None of this is organic. But the system can't have you have the one thing and know it's the truth. I think you now know and can see, as you put all this together, now you know what foreign interference is. Now you know what it means. Now you know what it means about them going into it's all disinformation campaigns, the whole bit. You all know where it comes from and data theft and the whole bit. You know this stuff. You know this stuff. And it's all there. And now maybe you can understand how all these systems work together. They are not isolated islands. It takes every one of them. Because the true battlefield is how big? Pop quiz! The battlefield for all of this is 1/2 a fucking inch. And that's because they're only fighting to get in there. And if they can get in there, you will destroy your country yourself. That's this whole rig. President Trump laid on you the truth. You can read through the document you want. You're going to get a lot of spin or whatever. Keep it simple. Understand what foreign interference is. Understand what domestic interference is. And it's not going in, changing votes, and we just swift the votes on the sheet. That's not it. That's not it. And you got to understand, if you, the voter, can't even get clear of how this works, if you can't even draw common sense fucking things about, you think some election guy in an election company says, don't worry, I've done it all. We're just going to flip a switch and do it. Of calls that can't be proven with Antifa, but you'll buy it because you buy into the fucking conspiracy theory, and you can't even understand major countries, Russia, China, the guys wouldn't have fucking got all the voter rolls if it was as simple as just flipping a switch on a machine that was already there. But they play on your emotions instead of playing on your logic. You know all the answers. See, the question is, can you vote right? Everything comes down to a vote. Let me explain that. We vote with our ballots, yes. But we also vote with our time and money. Are you still voting for people that sold you bullshit? The president was still in charge. It's the machines. It's a six. Are you still voting with your endorsement because you follow them? Are you still voting for the con with your time? You're investing your vote in it. And that's what the system knows. People are too weak to get fucking hardcore and draw lines. And when you can't unfollow, boot, ban, call out, and stop giving your time, they just know it's a matter of time. They'll get you back. Because why? They got you still listening. You now know the truth. Share this program. This is why I do it 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 days a week. Because you better become the smartest patriot in the room and understand how this works, or we're going to lose our country. I love every one of you. Please share this program.
Have you gotten your copy of the best-selling book, Countdown to Chaos? The Silent Federalizing of Elections? On November 3, 2020, something happened in America. Something that caused millions of citizens to stop, stare, and ask one terrifying question. What just happened to our country? That night, America watched as confusion spread across the nation. Vote counting, delays, questions, accusations, anger, silence, censorship, division. And when it was over, one thing was undeniable. America was not the same. Trust in elections was damaged. Trust in the media was shattered. Trust between citizens was pushed to the breaking point. Countdown to Chaos is not a casual read. This book will make you mad. Then it may make you sad. And then it may make you furious. But anger is not the problem. Unfocused anger is. This book takes that confusion, that frustration, and gives it direction. Because before people can act, they must first understand. Inside Countdown to Chaos, you are taken on a chronological journey through the who, what, when, where, why, and how behind the modern election system. How was the system built? Who influenced it? When did it change? Where did the power shift? Why were so many Americans left with unanswered questions? This book asks the questions many people were told not to ask. Was the chaos accidental? Was it predictable? Was it manufactured? Could anyone have known where an election was headed before the public results were called? Could election data be viewed while the process was still unfolding? Could systems be vulnerable? Could outside actors, insiders, institutions, or networks influence outcomes without the average voter ever knowing? One side shouted, the election was rigged. The other side shouted, there is no such thing as election fraud. But slogans are not answers. Mockery is not evidence. Silence is not proof. Americans deserve more than talking points. They deserve facts. They deserve timelines. They deserve documentation. They deserve the truth. Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections is a deep research dive into the questions that still haunt millions of Americans. It is carefully researched, it is presented in chronological order, and once you see the system laid out step by step, you may never look at elections the same way again. But be warned, do not open this book if you are comfortable staying asleep. Do not open this book if you cannot handle hard questions. Do not open this book if you still want the blue pill. Because once your eyes are opened, there is no going back. Get the answers, follow the timeline, see the system. Read the bestseller, Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections. Available now. Get your copy today.